Stardate 100056.2. Welcome to Star Trek Discovery Podcast, a kind of smart, kind of funny podcast about new and classic Star Trek. I was going to say, I think Giraffe is the captain now, but I think...
Yes! Look at me. Look at me. I'm the captain.
I will run
now.
The show for the night. Thank you to everyone. I didn't know if I was going to make it tonight. Had to work a little bit later than usual, but the LA traffic gods shone down upon me and I made it back in time. So very excited. I'm your acting captain, Mariah Gossett. With me on the view screen, we have
Clyde Haynes
and Giraffe.
Whoop, whoop. Giraffe is back again for another Spock-centric episode. Excited to dig into episode 7 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. But first, happy Picard Day, everybody.
Happy Picard Day.
Woo! If you did not get to tune in, Clyde got to host an official Twitter hangout with the Star Trek Twitter account, chatting with some other entertainment journalists, talking all things Picard. Clyde, how was it? How can people find it?
So just go head over to, I believe it's Star Trek P+. So that's the Paramount Plus handle. And they're retweeting it. And so you can kind of watch it, kind of watch the replay. It was great. Got to hang out with a bunch of really cool Trekkies, including I think we were hanging out with Lauren from IGN and Jamie from Comic Con or from comics.com and then Ryan from the Hollywood Reporter. And so we got a chance to talk about our favorite episodes, our favorite quotes. You might be able to guess one of my favorite quotes. We talked about
there are 4 lights for those who are just listening to the podcast and not watching.
There are 4 lights. We really talked about the impact that Picard has had as a leader. We talked about his evolution from TNG to Picard, from the Enterprise to La Serena. It was a quick, short hang, but it was a lot of fun. I mean, who doesn't enjoy talking Trek or Picard with a bunch of other Trekkies? Like that's always fun.
I don't know anybody else who enjoys any of those things, Clyde.
No one.
Surprise, surprise. All right. Well, I think we're going to figure out our own little mutiny plan. We're going to do that through the power of a good meal and jump into this episode. So this is the Serene Squall, directed by Sidney Freeland, written by Bo DeMeo and Sarah Tarkoff. And some fun notes. This is like a really great episode for representation, both in front of and behind the camera. Sidney Freeland is a trans woman. She's also Indigenous, and she's directed quite a few episodes of FX's Reservation Dogs, which is
Good
a great TV show, as well as some episodes of Peacock's Rutherford Falls, which I also really enjoyed. And we also get Jesse James Cattell, who plays Dr. Aspen / Captain Angel, and we'll talk all about them. And I know that she's on the new Peacock show Queer as Folk as well. So super exciting. I'm really excited.
I think also debuted this week.
Yeah, it just came out, I think, this past week in time for Pride Month. So I think we all know what time it is. It is time for some It's time for some hot freaks.
Yes. And if you want to chat along with us, feel free to type in capital H, capital F, and give us your hot freak. And if you just have a comment or a question, feel free to type in capital P, capital O, capital D in the chat, and we'll take a look at your question or your comment.
Do it. Giraffe, what are some hot takes? What are your spicy thoughts about this episode?
Okay, so first of all, I know I love a good Spock-centric episode, but I have a lot of problems with it again. But I have a lot of theories that go with that episode. So I don't know, is that a hot freak? Should we like wait a little bit? Like,
We
What's
can
the
we'll dive into some deeper topics, but do you have any overall would you say this is like a if you were to give this like a out of 10 ranking or,
I loved
just
it. Very good episode. It's funny. There's some like hijinks, some switcheroos, great acting again. We're going very serenely towards the end of the season. So we're see episode 7. It was absolutely great. I loved everything about it except like little things. No, Uhura, what's up with this? Why? That's the only thing that's gonna make me like dunk my grade. But yeah.
Yeah. And I definitely want to talk about it because I have some big thoughts too. But Clyde,
Okay.
Ooh.
hot freak.
I thought it was a good episode. It felt a bit like a third date, if I have to be honest.
Ooh.
No,
Quote Ortegas.
I was really interested to see where this episode was going because it started out with a lot of kind of double entendres. We talked about the first date, the third date. We talked about kind of interesting literature. Like there was all these practices, and I was like, oh, there was a lot of sultriness is happening. And then it feels like the tone shifted kind of on a dime and became this campy, twist-filled pirate who done it kind of episode. So I thought that was interesting. And so it's almost like I've got two halves of episodes, like two interesting halves of two different episodes. I enjoyed it, right? And so you've got ship maneuvering and ship on, I love a good ship on ship battle. And then I love the way that we got to see some fun, jokey campiness with Pike and company. So yeah, all in all, I thought this was a really positive episode. I was excited to watch it. If I'm being honest, I tried to watch it like early, like in the middle of the night, and I was like, oh, I'll just watch a little of it now, and that way tomorrow I'll finish it up. And I watched it all. So this got to tell you that when it came to finishing the episode and going to sleep, I chose finishing the episode. So that's kind of a 4 lights up for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with both of you. There's some big topics that I think they're swinging at that I am looking forward to like discussing in depth because I'm hoping that that's their purpose, is to encourage us to discuss those things. And then I personally love when Trek is really campy, when Trek is horny Trek. And so this definitely checked a lot of those boxes for me between Spock and T'Pring, who are just, I try not to be like creepy about commenting on people's looks, but Spock and T'Pring are very good looking people. And so I feel like they're really letting us enjoy that. I also love that there was return of the bodysuit. We haven't seen one of those in a while, and we got to on our pirate Capitan. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that I had some thoughts on, but I feel like they're playing with some of the tropes that I often see that occur, especially with trans feminine characters. And so I'm excited to see where they're going with it. I thought Jesse was incredible, and overall, I enjoyed the ride of this episode. So that's kind of my hot freak. For now, let's see what's going on in the chat. And I was going to say, Giraffe, I left you something in the private chat.
Yeah.
Yes, you're a little glitchy.
I'm
but,
a little glitchy again.
Yeah, but we'll try to get that fixed up. What's eating my camera? Am I okay? I'm fine. I just have a blurry background because I am in a bedroom instead of my normal office. So, all right, hot break. A very fun episode. Loving Spock Chapel friendship. This is from Cheapy. Pike totally reminded me of Shatner when Kirk is playing acting to get someone to do something. Very, very TOS vibes going on in this particular episode. Nicole says, hot freak, I mentioned this on Slack, but I just wasn't into Angel's overacting. It kept taking me out of the show. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed the camp of it all. I always love I love a funny, campy villain. I personally enjoy that, but I could see where others might not.
You
Caitlin
know,
says, "Oh, go
I
ahead."
was gonna say, Mariah, what you mentioned about a campy villain, I think you need it in this one, right? Because I was
Mhm,
looking into it and going, okay, we kind of know when Spike's demise is happening, right? We have an idea when that happens. We know for sure, right, that Uhura is gonna be fine.
mhm,
We know that Spock is going to live as long or longer than any of them, in maybe a couple reincarnations. We know that from what we hear, Kyle is gonna make it through. We know Chapel is gonna make it through. So when you lose this idea of true danger, right? So the only people that we're not quite certain on is Una, who we know at least makes it for a while, right? Una actually makes
Mm-hmm.
it to the pilot of
mhm,
TOS. Ortega's, we have no idea what's going to happen to Ortega's, right?
mhm.
So I think when you have that,
Lon.
the non, you're right. Leon's another one.
Mm,
Outside of those, I think you need a big bad scary villain who's threatening to kill anyone just doesn't quite fit. Sometimes you're like, I know they're gonna make it because I've seen the sequel. The campy villain works, right? Because here's the deal: you're looking at it, you're like, they're not gonna kill anybody. Like everybody's gonna make it. So how do you make that entertaining? How do you make that really fun to watch? And I think that's an even greater challenge in creating a villain that you're like, give me more screen time. And I thought with Captain Angel, it was like, okay, what's going to happen here? What are you doing? What's your end game? And it instead of just seeing how bad the villain could be, it's like, what do you want? Because I'm not sure. And then you have the big reveal. So I thought it worked. I thought the campiness of it actually worked really well for this setting.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see here. Let's grab a couple more hot frakes. Kuhn says it was a fun romp that was needed after last week's episode, but did we have to bring back Cybok? We do have to talk about that big reveal at the very end of the
Yes.
episode.
I know Mike somewhere going, yes.
Listen,
I'm
I love the fact that you never know where it's gonna go with Orions. So you don't know if it's gonna be a lower decks Orion and Discovery Orion. You don't know if it's gonna be uh really crazy shooting. People are gonna be spaced and so on, or it's just gonna be a cook off. And I kind of like it because even if we know they're gonna make it, they don't know they're gonna make it, and I think it's still a little bit of tension. And I'm pretty sure they're gonna end up killing Lon at one point or another in Strange New World, and that's gonna be an interesting episode. So no, I don't know. I'm stressed about them. And Star Trek, they're gonna kill off somebody and then bring them back. So
classic.
Oh, my
possible,
money's on Kirk.
right?
Sam
Kirk?
Kirk.
Yeah, Sam Kirk first to go.
But we know when he dies too.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
flying murder pancakes. Am
Flying
I
murder
SBG?
pancakes. No, unfortunately. I don't know what's going on.
Refresh. Should I refresh?
Yeah, let's try to refresh and we'll see what else is going on in the chat while you do that. All right, let's see. Heaven Student says, I thought this episode would have been a great episode as a two-parter. I know some people wanted to see more of the mutiny going on. I definitely think that could have been fun. Let's get Giraffe back in. There you are. You look much better now.
Oh, my image is glitchy. Oh, that's weird. Okay.
Yeah. The audio is also a little glitchy, but now it seems to be potentially better. You can also drop your camera's resolution, and sometimes that helps if the internet's being a little meh. Thanks for sticking with us through some tech stuff, y'all. The internet is fun. But I wanted to kind of dive in, I think, to I don't know, we could start with the sex. Do we want to start sexy books or dive right into the binary of Spock?
Did you just ask this group if they want to talk about binary of Spock or sexy books?
I know.
Can we speak about both?
We can think about both, but I thought it was kind of talking about this particular episode, right? So we have the character of of Dr. Aspen / Captain Angel, who does in the episode uses they them pronouns. Jessie particularly as an actress uses she her and they them pronouns. But the books that they T'Pring references, luckily Collider grabbed all of the info for me, which is super helpful. So thanks, Collider. And we have The Tropic of Cancer by Henry Miller, which is like this very masculine point of view of sexuality. And then we have The Fear of Flying by Erica Zhang for a more feminine view of sexuality. And then we have Maggie Nelson's The Argonauts, which is a mix of memoir and philosophy, where she explores many things, including her love for her partner, Harry Dodge, who happens to be a transmasculine person. And the title of the book refers to constantly changing and evolving parts of ourselves. And so I thought it was really interesting, and I'd be, I want to hear what you think about this Giraffe in particular after our last kind of conversation on the pod, is that essentially the character of Dr. Aspen, right? Like we get a kind of wonderful examination of like, you don't have to be two things. You are just yourself. Right. And that is sort of like what I think we eventually get in the evolution of Spock. Like we eventually get there. And this seems to be the point where this is being brought to him. And I thought it was kind of really lovely that this is an episode kind of centering the trans experience and telling you like, we are beyond binaries, right? Like we are spectrums of people and you just have to figure out where you lie on this spectrum. So what do y'all think about that sort of framework for Spock's identity?
I'll jump in. I thought it was great. Like I think I honestly rewound and watched it a couple times because I wanted to really hear and not be distracted by anything else going on. But this idea that, Spock in particular and everyone in general tends to look at this binary existence, right? I'm either A or I'm B, right? I'm either cool or I'm a nerd, right? I'm either short.
Hey, nerd are cool. Come on.
Well, I mean, now, but there was a time that was not the case. And, I think for me in particular, I'll tell my story. While I'm not specifically biracial, an African-American boy growing up in a predominantly white neighborhood who is into chess and rap music, like this idea of always feeling of like, do I fit in one category? Do I fit in another? And really being able to say, whatever it is, whatever you identify it as, you don't have to pick a side. You can be you. And that being you brings a great amount of value to the community that you're in and the environment that you're in. I love that. Like, I thought that was a really important message. And so it resonated with me in particular.
I have many feelings about this conversation. So I've seen the episode several times. And the first time I watched it, for me, it was about being biracial because that's how I read the episode. Then when I rewatched it, I was like, oh, I know many folks are going to read it as Spock being transcoded. I know many people read Spock this way. So I'm interested to go and read and read Twitter about this because it's not my experience. So then I realized that it was a very good conversation because everybody could read it through their own eyes and how they go through life and find something in conversation that is very interesting. I like the fact that it's not what you are, because that question of what are you, I can't do this question anymore. So when Captain Angel goes, that's not about what you are, but who you are, I was like, that's good. That's an interesting way to put it. And when they discuss in Spock's quarter, there's this other line where, what is it about? Sorry. Basically about you can be several things. You can be different person at the same time because that's who you are. I think it's the first time that Star Trek kind of does that conversation in an interesting way, and I think I appreciate even more the fact that um, uh, Dr. Aspen is a non-binary character, because it adds to the conversation. Though I start to be a little bit annoyed at the fact that every Spock-centric episode are about him being biracial and being a problem and how he cannot navigate it. He's not a kid. And even if right now he maybe doesn't have an answer, the fact that everybody around him always bring him to that question and this conversation is kind of becoming annoying. And I was having this conversation earlier. I was saying, imagine if Stammet in Discovery had every single conversation about him being gay.
Yeah.
It's not, the character cannot be only that. And it cannot be every single conversation. The fact that T'Pring is trying to understand more is cute and nice, and I think it adds to T'Pring characters. But yet again, the only thing we speak about around Spock is how he's biracial. And even Dr. Espen that doesn't know him, I mean, knows him, but he's not supposed to know him, still brings that to the conversation. And I'm like, I was imagining being in his like place and being in my place of work, right? And people still bringing the fact of, so, are you French? Are you Somali? Like, how do you feel? What are you? It's not about what you are. It's about who you are, Giraffe. And I'm like, I know that. But I think it's time to move on Spock. I think it was a great conversation. It was really well brought. I think a lot of folks are going to be able to read something in this conversation and to be able to reflect about who they are and how they see themselves. But now I kind of want to Spock to be through with it and maybe not be always the subject. Oh, I know. It's about putting people in boxes. And it's true. That's what we do. We always, I need to know who you are and what you are, but it doesn't need to be the conversation all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I hope we finally get to move on. I felt like they really set this up, and I know like the other thing I try to remember is that we are people who are more familiar with Spock as a character, and this show is supposed to be like before we've come to know Spock, and so it's those like origin pieces. But I agree with you, Giraffe. Like, would this be really frustrating as someone in an office if you're just like, for me, because I consider myself kind of like on the gender spectrum, if someone was just like, oh, what's your gender today? And I'd be like, I don't know. If I felt like I needed to tell you, I would tell you, like we can deduce what it is from here on out. And why do we have to talk about it all the time? And I feel like it would also be more, there could be a possibility of it becoming more of an interesting topic if it was Spock talking to like other people of like, and I think this is why I personally thought this was a more thoughtful way to do it, is because he's talking to someone who also is living in a different, like an othered experience, right? So there's a difference when you're having a conversation with other people who are also living that othered experience versus like like the people who live in more privileged spaces, right? Having those conversations almost like to you rather than with you, because they can't commune in that same way. So I think that's why I enjoyed the conversation between Aspen, Angel, and Spock more than any of these other sort of conversations that happen to him. This felt like the first time I've seen it happening with him in a way.
I think the thing that is interesting to me is that as Dr. Aspen, they approach Spock in a very familiar way, right? And as I go back and rewatch it, it's because they had an agenda, right? They're trying to play upon Spock's insecurities and Spock's confusion to manipulate him for their own purposes. But when I take a step out, especially as I listen to you, Giraffe, you're right. So not only is, and I've had this happen, being the only African American person in a workplace, especially during the time of George Floyd and issues like that. Like all of a sudden, I now have to talk about it all the time, and I'm not, and I don't want to. Right? But be honest with you, it's like in this environment, I should be able to choose when I want to enter into those conversations because they're personal to me. And so you take that a step forward, and you have someone who you just met who's now engaging you about a topic that is incredibly personal and sensitive to you, and then telling you about yourself. When I zoom out, it feels a little, it feels a little, I don't want to say forced or wrong, but
there is an agenda.
There isn't. So I get why it happened. But I'm looking and going from an outside perspective, like that entire dynamic, that should have been the red flag. What, like almost like, why are you talking to me this way? I don't know you, right? You're telling me that I need to be some way, that the way I feel, like the fact that I struggle with my with just going with my gut. You're telling me that there's a problem with that. I don't even know you, man. Like
I read it. I'm so sorry about the glitch. I'm so sorry. I see people.
You
saying
actually
I'm
look and
You're
sound a
better
lot
now.
better
Yeah.
now. So it
okay,
might have
great.
fixed
I don't know what's
itself.
happening. Yeah, hey.
The internet is a weird wormhole.
I explained it in my head throughout the episode because I had the same reaction. I was like, what are you doing in his quarters? Like, to speak about this is so weird. But then they explained that their husband is Vulcan and was Vulcan. And I was, maybe, I don't know, maybe they were trying to put in the story that they were seeing in Spock something that reminded them of their husband. And then grief has been such a theme. I thought, oh, it's going to go there. That's why they feel like they can share with Spock, or there's something that they can help him with, or whatever. But yeah, then you understand that it's not the case. But that's how I tried to explain it. It's still weird.
Mhm.
I was
And-
like, okay.
And honestly, it's like it's like looking at that individual conversation. I was like, oh, this is such a nice way to frame this and to like get to this point for Spock. And then you get this point that Marge then brings up, an actor who is trans then being the villain. And it's like you then have this person who is has malintent, right? And that's the reasoning, but like you were saying, Clyde, the reasoning behind these conversations. And by the end of it, I had a weird feeling at the twist. I was like, oh no, like we're really like, because there are so many tropes, especially about trans femmes and trans women, about being like two-faced and sneaky, and like this idea that they're hiding something from people. And so I was like, oh no, we're falling down this rabbit hole. But then I was like, I feel like Star Trek as a whole has done a lot to try to not fall into those tropes lately. I will say lately, with the asterisks and the caveat. And I also felt better knowing that the director was a trans woman, and this is someone who is like really involved in this process. And then we also get to the fact that the villain, like, core reasoning is not evil, it is love. And so then I was like, anyway, there's so many levels of like complications of like, oh no, are we falling into this like bad trap? Oh no. And then I was like, I don't know, I kind of love how campy Angel was, and that all of this was for love, and it's not for like the core reason was not malintent for them in a way, right?
Right. I think you're spot on though, right? Because I think representation matters. And what you mentioned is, if this was done by a cis white male, I'd have more questions, right? I really would. Like, and I'm going to be completely honest about that. But the fact that this was directed by a trans woman it tells me that there was somebody kind of in the
Asking
process
the questions, right? Of like, what's the
you hope.
purpose
Now,
of this? Yeah.
I don't know for sure, right? But it says that, hey, there's someone in the room who may be able to take a perspective. Because again, as an African American male, for me, representation matters. And so when you have typically an all right writing staff, an all right production team, all white production team, then depicting, black men and women in a particular light, I do have concerns, right? Like I legitimately have concerns and going, okay, well, and it becomes more than just a story. But I think what we see here is it feels as though someone said, hey, if we're going to do this, let's be thoughtful about it, right? Not saying we're going to get it all right. Not saying they're not going to be concerns, but at least let's make sure that there's somebody in the room who can raise a hand and go, hey, this is very tropey and will come across as fairly offensive. Can we rethink this? Like, you hope that someone is in the room to represent people who aren't, especially when you're telling stories from a perspective that may not be represented.
I do think too that it's not the end of that story, of that plot line. We're gonna see Captain Angel again because we're gonna see Cyborg again, and their relationship is gonna be so interesting to explore, and how they're gonna manage to get him out of prison or whatever, like rehabilitation center. We know it's not the end of the story too. So I do hope that Captain Angel, Dr. Aspen is going to be a character that's gonna evolve and that we're gonna see more of, and it's gonna get more complex. I do hope so.
I think you have to. I think you have to, because you set up a really interesting character. And the thing I hate, and not just in Trek, but really in anything, is don't tease me, right, with a really good character and then just have him go away. I hate that. Like there has to be a payoff at some point. Like, you've created this really interesting pirate. Like, who doesn't love a pirate captain? I mean, come on, you've given me a
Captain
pirate captain.
Angel too.
But the name, like that pirate Captain Angel. Come on.
Cyborg is an interesting villain too, because he's a complex villain. So I think the reveal at the end really warped me a little bit. I mean, these characters are going to come back. These characters are going to be complex. There's going to be a complicated storyline, and we're going to see them again. So that's how I kind of eased my worry, because I thought the same thing.
Yeah. And I mean, here's the thing, like, true representation means that you're able to play all of the characters, right? So it's like, we were going to get to the place where, like, you are going to finally see queer coded villains again, but hopefully they aren't. That's not, like, their queerness isn't what's making them villainous, right? Like, it's like just a part of who they are. And I think I see this happening with Captain Angel. And also, we all know we love a good gay pirate. We've all been obsessed. The top two shows like on streaming platforms right now are Strange New Worlds and our Flag Means Death.
Yeah.
We love queer pirates. So I'm here for more queer pirates. And I do appreciate that. The other thing is, while we are now reading Angel as a villain, who knows how that character is eventually going to end up, because we did not end their story quite yet. So while they were the villain, that's what I want. I want complex villains. I don't want just the queer codedness of it all to make them a villain. And I think we're going to get there.
And I think here's the interesting thing about Pirate Captain Angel as a villain. They didn't kill anybody.
Nope.
Like, they literally didn't harm anybody in the process. That they threatened to. I mean, yeah, you shot Spock with a stun gun. Okay.
In the back.
He'll be fine. He'll be fine.
Trust me. It's gonna be okay. Yeah.
I think that's interesting. And I think, to your point, Mariah, when you talk about complex villains, right? Like, to me, the best villains are ones that you struggle hating, right? That you kind of sort of understand their perspective. You can see where they're coming from. You almost want to root for them. When you can say, man, I want to root for you if you weren't going up against my favorite character or my team, right? Like, it's like, man, if you were going against the Klingons, I'd have your back. But you're going against the Enterprise, so I don't, right? Like, if we were seeing Pirate Angel do this to a Vulcan crew, I wonder if we would. I wonder if we would even call them the villain, right? I think this has the potential to get really interesting. And to your point, Giraffe, they've done it again with choosing a character like Cybok, right? A character that, like, when that name is said, has a certain gravitas, but we know almost nothing about, right? Like, there's so much that you can do to explore and fill in the gaps that we have. This could get really interesting really quickly.
For sure. I wanted to, now that we've brought up, well, first, did y'all notice we got some like TOS era Klingon action going on in this particular episode? Super fun. But what did y'all think about the kind of B plot line of this episode? We have Pike, who I think is trying to go again. Like, they call Pike a Boy Scout very early on in the episode. And I think Pike's like, oh, I got to prove I'm not just a Boy Scout in this particular episode. And kind of really goes for it in this whole like captured crew getting punched in the face, and then I'm gonna make chili.
You know, there's so much about the plot that I love. It's the campiness of the, you know, when you have two people like Burnham and Book would do and mention, not insert planetary name, right? Or station or ship. No, not that. Yes, that. Like, oh, here we go. Like, it's like, okay, you know, shenanigans are coming. And so I thought it was fun. I was like, all right, well, this is going to be interesting. And, you know, the whole idea of a mutiny based on your culinary skills and talking trash about your captor's cooking is hilarious to me, and has now officially set up the fact that I want, at the end of this season, I'm fully expecting to go onto Amazon and to purchase the Strange New Worlds Pike's cookbook. Like, I want to make recipes from this.
100%.
We got to have the ribs. We got to have the chili.
Yeah. These weird Vulcan tower thing too. I want to know what's that about. Like the food, like conic food they have.
You know? Like I wanted to know more about exactly what did he cook, because it, like you said, Mariah, the fact that you call it chili or could have been stew,
it's chili.
I'm like,
it looks like chili to me.
I
needed to know more about what it was. Like, I thought it was interesting.
Yeah,
I think it's a great B plot. Like, just I loved it. And I'm with you. It's chili because think about it. Just the fact that he's cooking chili and serving chili to a bunch of space pirates is so much more hilarious than, I don't know, a space dish or whatever they could make up. Chili's the plate.
Yeah, I mean, when you think back to like Pike's mountainous, like Wyoming, Montana house or whatever, like that's a cabin where chili is made on the regular. So you know that Pike, and he's like smelling all the spices in the kitchen. So
Yeah.
definitely happening.
He's from the Mojave, so Southern California, you know?
I mean, a Star Trek cookbook would work for me. There's
one.
Is
There's
there?
one, but it's the Neelix cookbook, and it's
no.
I mean,
I need something with. I need something with a little Riker in it, a little Cisco in it. You know what I mean? I mean,
a deep
face
V something.
Yes. You know, that's what I need. I need a cookbook of stuff I can actually cook. Neelix, I don't want to eat any of that stuff.
No, Neelix.
I'm not kidding. The cookbook actually exists. It's not a joke.
Yeah,
I'm gonna find
stay
it
wherever it is. It's gonna stay there.
I've seen a few requests in the chat, and it was definitely also on my list, but I feel like we have to talk about this ember of a love triangle between Spock, Chapel, and T'Pring, where I mean, if I was T'Pring, I also would have been like, I saw the plan. You were trying to keep my honor. But after seeing that kiss, though, I'd be like, I don't know. That was some pretty good acting.
Listen, there is nothing like that, the after kiss linger, right? Like
The slow pull.
the not even just a slow pull, but there's almost like, wait, what just happened? I'm here for a
This
second. Like
podcast is steamy.
I'm just like that is like whoa. Like if T'Pring is paying attention at all, she needs to look over at Chapel and go, I see you. I saw that, right? Like I understand it was acting, but I got
was
my
it?
eye on you. I got my eye on you.
Was it acting?
Because I was like, whew.
I mean, like technically, yes, it was acting, but is it acting? Do you know what I mean? For those characters, is it acting or was it, oof, we've now gotten something that we've maybe been thinking about for a while and now it's happened.
I have a lot of problem with what they're doing with Chapel, like so many, as a character, because so far that's all we know of her, and we have a badass woman in STEM who is a geneticist who is here in the flagship of the Federation to do badass science, and so far she's being the romantic interest of absolutely everybody. We've talked about who she's sleeping with more than anything else, and I'm so mad for Chapel. And the fact that we know nothing happens, because it goes all the way to TOS, right? She's still like having her crush 10 years later. Tell me one professional woman who has such a job, such a like knowledge and like such opportunity, who is going to be here just to have a crush on the lieutenant for 10 years.
I
Like,
mean,
come on.
here's the thing though. I 100% agree with you. I really need a Chapel based episode for me to fully engage with this character on the levels that I want to, because it is outrageously charming and I want more. I want to know more than just that. And there are things from this episode. There's some cute callbacks back to TOS. Like Chapel was never great at the computer, which is like a funny reference since the original actress was also the voice of the computer. So there's some like fun little Easter egg moments in there with Chapel being like, why can't I just send out a simple SOS? But I do want more than just charming. I enjoyed getting to see her sort of use her badassery, if you will, kind of making her way to engineering and truly being the only crew member that doesn't really get caught. That isn't our prime two here. So I enjoyed that for her, and I liked seeing her getting to kind of knock a bunch of people out with her little medical supplies, since she didn't have a phaser on her, which does feel like if you're going to code red, I feel like everyone should be phasered up, I guess, but maybe that's not how that works if you're in medical. But yeah, I'm hoping we get more. I agree with you, Giraffe. I need some more besides. But
she's the homemaker too. Like, I'm kind of done with these characters. It's 2022. I don't want the homemaker, like the beautiful woman who's like very charming is the homemaker. And I'm like, come on.
Does she have to be a homewrecker? In my life, or in my dream, it's just a beautiful like polyamorous love triangle between T'Pring, Spock, and Chapel.
You think
and I
T'Pring is gonna go for this? T'Pring tried to murder somebody.
She's reading
all
Henry
these
Miller.
books.
I'm telling you,
she's reading all the books. That's gonna get her there.
Yeah, I don't
you read
so.
enough Henry Miller, you might triangles might be your thing. I'm just saying.
True. There's some sexy books.
True, but
Yes.
I do think that, I don't know. For me, it's so far very limited stories, and I cannot fall in love with the character because so far it's not stuff I'm very interested in. Like, I like shipping. I ship like everybody. Like, sure, but I fall in love for characters that have dimension and that I can admire. And so far, I don't really care of like their love triangle. It's hot, it's steamy, they're all very hot. It's very good, but this is not why I watch Star Trek. And we need women that have a little bit of substance, and I'm waiting this for Chapel. I want something else for her.
You want more Beverly Crusher, is what I'm
Yes.
That's what you want.
Yes.
You want.
I have no problem if she does all that, if there's like something else behind, but so far there's nothing. and I need them. It's episode 7. I need them to like act up on this and give me something else than just her love stories and her crush and her and googly eyes and like I need something else behind. I would be cool with all of this, with all this, if we had like a very science-based episode where she was saving the day. And so far we have not really had that. We had a little bit,
Yeah,
but
I was
not
like the
enough.
first episode where they're like, "Oh, she's so smart. She studies all these genetics. She's gonna like recode you or whatever." But
yeah, I think, but I think you can say that about everybody so far, right? Like, and it's tough because we don't have 26 episodes
yeah,
to really dive into this cast, and I'd be here for it. And I think we're doing something a little bit different than what we've done before, right? Like if you go back to TNG, we got a little bit of, oh, Riker and Troy have a past. For the most part, it was business, right? When you look at Voyager, you had, Tom Paris and Harry Kim trying to catch women, and every time they caught one, they ended up on a murder trial. So like
truly,
it
That's
was
so true.
mostly about like, it was really about the work, and then you had these like in their downtime, bunch of geeky scientists are bad at relationships, right? And then you'd get this moment where, oh, there's this connection, right? Even if for Riker it was with a character on a holodeck, right? In Minuet, where you get, again, there's a theme here, Geordi and a character on a holodeck and Leah Brahms. Like, you get these moments where you see some real, to your point, three-dimensional, like, oh, I'm here for it. It seems like with Strange New Worlds, we got to the romance kind of quick, right? In Spock and T'Pring, and then Chapel, and the conversations about romance happened really quick. That seems a little unusual for us, a little bit of a shortcut.
Yeah, and I think it's part of it. I think it is that mirror of TOS, right, where there wasn't quite the same character depth, especially for the women on that crew, right? And so I feel like they're obviously doing way better than TOS, but at this point, it is 2022, and I would hope we've graduated from the 1960s. But I hope we get to see a Chapel episode. We've gotten so much Spock background, I think, because Spock is obviously a big fan favorite. And we get to explore some of this like origin story. But I agree with you, Giraffe. I really want a full Chapel episode. I feel like that character is due that. And I hope we get it by the end of this season. So then we can just like punch in for season 2 with some more hijinks. We know everybody's backstories at this point. And to me, that's a really successful season 1, is you've gotten to learn and love your characters. So then you've got the full team up. We love a team up on this pod. The full team up is teamed up, and we're ready to go for season 2, which I know they're already like, I think done filming season. They're already into season 3. So we got plenty of this coming down the pipeline.
I need more than just Chapel, though. Can I get a little backstory on Ortegas?
Hemmer.
We're still waiting to, like, can we wrap up some stuff with Mbenga? Like, there's a lot here, and and again, when was the last time we saw Kirk? Like, we see like Kirk walking down the hall.
I know. I kind of
Kirk.
my
God.
I love the weird cameos of Sam Kirk, though. I think it's a really fun, just like toss out there. I was hoping we were going to get some more like kind of comedic moments with that character. They'll probably still come, but I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, I want to see more of Sam Kirk. I want him to be in every episode in random places, like with Charlie, like just find
passed out on accident.
Yeah.
Well, think about what Discovery did, right? Like, there became a point where it was almost like, can we play a game of Find Linus, right? How many times was Linus like in the back, like in an elevator? Like, there was like Linus was just around all the time. I'm totally okay with that being Sam Kirk. Right, like he's just like, it would almost make it fun. It's almost like a drinking game. Take a shot every time you see Sam Kirk in the background. Like, Like I would completely be up for that. But also, you've got Rebecca Romaine in this
Yeah.
show, and you're not doing a lot with her. I'm just saying, like,
Mm.
you had a little episode, you've done some stuff here, but you got some heavyweights. There's a lot of camera time to go around. And we're spending a lot of time on Spock and T'Pring. And to your point, Mariah, they're pretty, but I need
Yeah.
more. Give me some more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to go through. So this episode opens with T'Pring doing a personal log, which we don't often get a non-Starfleet officer doing a personal log. I went through, and the only one that's obvious to me is Seven of Nine, who was never actually a part of the Federation, does quite a few personal logs in Voyager. But other than that, it's pretty much all Starfleet people.
Mhm.
So I thought that was an interesting tidbit that we fully get someone who's not a part of that. And then it's interesting that it's like essentially part of her diary, right? If it's a personal log, because it's not something that's logged to Starfleet.
Mariah, you just said something that sparked a question. All right, so we're 7 episodes in.
Mm.
Do you have characters that you feel really, really strongly about? Because what you said was when you talked about Voyager, I was thinking about how quickly I realized I like Chakotay, right? How quickly I thought B'Elanna's fascinating, right?
Yeah.
It took me, when you go back and kind of watch like Encounter at Farpoint, like it wasn't long before I was like, oh, that LeVar Burton character is kind of interesting, right? Like there are these moments where I immediately gravitate to some characters. I'm wondering if that's the case. Are there people that I'm like, man, I really like, I'm gonna have that action figure when it's this all said and done? I don't know if I'm there yet.
I did just get fact checked by the chat, as they always are, because they're smarter than I will ever be. Is that Book has also done a personal log, but for the show, good call out, guys. What was I gonna? So who do I want an action figure of? I mean,
Like, who are you?
Am I standing anyone yet?
Yeah, is it like, are you like, yo, that Chapel? When I'm standing in line for her autograph at Comic Con, like, is there anyone that you're just like, that's my person? I want a spin-off starring them.
I mean, but it's almost unfair, because like Uhura is always going to be that person. Yeah, like they're
Well, of course.
exactly. Thank you, Giraffe. Like,
I don't know which one of those pictures am I supposed to be excited about?
Yeah, I mean, like
Uhura.
Uhura, like,
Yeah.
duh.
Sure, okay.
But I guess I'm trying to, I think if we're going non like legacy characters at this point, like I find Ortegas to have like the most fun banter on the bridge with Pike. And so I really want to know more about their relationship. And I would definitely stand in line, and not just because I have a little bit of a crush on Ortegas. It's probably,
Absolutely.
yeah, for other reasons, definitely for other reasons.
She does get some of the best lines in the entire show. Like they're just fun.
First date close, third date close, blind date close. That was a fun. I really enjoyed that little quip.
Great. Like I just remember, like, man, I was thinking to myself, like, it was so good, it took me out of the moment, because I was thinking, what was it like to write that? Like when people read that, like, what was the reactions that they were getting? Like, that's how good I thought it was in terms of writing. I was just like, oh man, that was so perfect.
And she doesn't get much. Like, she just like kaboom, and it's hilarious and witty and perfect. And
you know what I'm
I
gonna
do
say?
think.
No, that's what she said. Like,
oh yeah,
boom.
And I mean, she really doesn't have a lot of lines, but they stick because she delivers them with so much, I don't know, pizzazz and humor, and the timing is always perfect. And even when she's not saying anything at the end, when Pike is doing like the pirate, and Una is like, please stop, you see Ortega being like, and it's so good. She's absolutely perfect in this role, and she brings that levity, right? Yeah, to every episode, even when she's doing something absolutely insane, like being at the helm of a full starship and piloting by hand. And That's incredible. So yeah, I'm glad about the Spock centric episode, but can we have an Ortega centric episode? Like when?
Like Nicole said, she reminds me of Reno with the one-liners. Very much
Yes.
that same vibe as Reno. I want like, in my dream, like Strange New Worlds lineup, I want like a fun Western bar brawl episode, which TOS loves a good Western
They
reference.
shot one.
Mhm.
I think they shot one in New Mexico.
Oh,
I
I'm
think
so
yeah,
excited.
I remember seeing like knowing that they were shooting in New Mexico first season, and everybody was like, "They're shooting in New Mexico. It's gonna be a forest episode." That's all I know. They just shot in New Mexico. I've seen nothing, so
Yeah.
just my hope.
I want a
Fingers
bar
crossed.
brawl with like Pike and Ortega's just like slugging whiskey and punching faces. Like that's all I want.
A la who's Tilly and
Michelle, yeah,
and yeah, like yeah, I see where you're going with that.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Mhm.
very
I-
much that vibe.
Yeah, and I kind of what I'm looking for is I'm excited about when we're gonna get like the back in time / mirrorverse episode, because we always get one.
Oh my god!
Like,
We're gonna
you
get
know,
it.
it'll be
It's gonna be
that'll with this
gorgeous.
crew, it's gonna be incredible. I
Incredible.
can't wait.
All right, y'all. Do you have any other thoughts, feelings, things you want to talk about in this particular episode before we wrap this bad boy up?
No, just I look forward to Thursdays and getting to watch. We can nitpick a little bit and we can have great discourse about choices, but at the end of the day, I'm still very excited that we've got more Trek. And I already can feel myself going, we're 7 episodes in. That means that there's not a lot left.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Although it does mean we are getting closer to Lower Decks time, which
Oh,
I'm really
yes.
excited about.
Love.
So excited
Yeah.
about.
Mhm.
All right, y'all. Well, thank you all again for tuning in. This has been a blast. Giraffe, where else can people listen to your wonderful thoughts and opinions about Star Trek?
I'm on Strange New Pod every Thursday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. That's why I'm a little bit tired because I just
I
jumped
know.
pod today.
Double duty. Giraffe jumped in because I
Double
thought
duty. Yeah.
thought I was going to work late, and Giraffe is wonderful and was willing to step in just in case.
And
I was
if you come at the San Diego Comic Con, don't hesitate to hit me up on Twitter at Lyrical Giraffe because I'll be moderating a panel there, and I'd love to see more Trekkies in the panel.
yeah, so exciting. Clyde, where can people find you on the internet?
You can always find me at Clyde Haynes on Twitter. Yeah, stop by, give me a follow, drop me a note. That's where you can chat with me.
Yeah, and you can find Clyde's panel from Picard Day on the official Star Trek on Paramount Plus account, and we've retweeted it from our account as well. You can find us at Star Trek Pod on all social platforms. You can visit StarTrekPod.co to find links to everything and to find our Patreon, patreon.com/Star Trek Pod. For just $2 an episode, you can come hang out with us in Slack. We'd love to see you there. We're chatting Trek all the time, doing the watch alongs with some of the best people on the internet. We love y'all so much. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, live long and prosper. Bye.